What's good, fam? Welcome to Woodson's Wisdom series on the Political Education for Freedom podcast. And this special series during Black History Month, we dive into the heart of our history, shining a light on the stories that shaped us. I'm Nitra, and today we're kicking it off with a heavy hitter, the journey to and the boiling tensions that paved the way to the Emancipation Proclamation. Now, when we talk about emancipation, we're not just talking about a piece of paper. No, we're talking about a fight, a struggle that's been brewing since the first enslaved African set foot on this land. It's about the spirit, the resilience, and the unbreakable will of our ancestors. Now, let's get one thing straight. Emancipation wasn't a gift handed down from above. It was fought for tooth and nail by our ancestors who refused to accept bondage as their fate. The road to freedom was long and fraught with tension, both on the battlefield and in the souls of the enslaved. Every day, under the crack of the whip, we held onto a dream of freedom, of breaking these chains. We whispered in the fields, sang it in our spirituals. Freedom was coming. It had to. The Emancipation Proclamation that came on January 1st, 1863, it wasn't Lincoln waking up one day deciding to free the slaves. No, that's not what happened. It was the result of years of blood, sweat, and tears. It was the Underground Railroad, the slave revolt, the abolitionist movement, all of that pushing and pushing until something had to give. Quote from a well-known historian says Lincoln's proclamation was a strategic move during the Civil War, sure, but it was also a testament to the pressure from African American communities and their allies. They were the true architects of their freedom long before that document was signed. This proclamation, it was just the beginning. It didn't free all the slaves, and it sure didn't end the fight for equality, but a declaration that shook the foundations of slavery in America. In every whispered prayer, in every weary step, we carried the weight of our chains and the fire of freedom in our hearts. We knew deep down that no man could change what God meant to be free. The Emancipation Proclamation of 1863 was a beacon, but the fire was already lit by the relentless spirit of African Americans. Figures like Frederick Douglass, who wielded words like weapons, and Harriet Tubman, whose courage on the Underground Railroad were also instrumental in this fight. The proclamation was a culmination of years of resistance, both overt and subtle. Enslaved people sabotaging their labor, running away, or simply maintaining their humanity in the face of inhumanity. These acts were all threads in the tapestry of emancipation. And let's not forget the role of Black soldiers in the Civil War. Over 200,000 African American men fought in the Union Army and Navy, their bravery and sacrifice proving that they were not just fighting for freedom, but also for the right to be recognized as men, as black men in America. All right, fam, it's time for the real talk part of the show. Welcome to America is Racist. This is where we keep it 100 on Woodson's wisdom, breaking down the hard truths and the raw history that shaped our streets and our lives. We're not just spinning tales, we're laying down the facts, getting to the core of the real, ripping back the layers, finding out the why behind the what. So let's break it down and chart our path forward together. We're shining a light on the dark side of history, those moments when the worst of white society left a mark on our history. A reminder of the struggles we stood up against and the strength we carried. On February 6, 1902, a white mob seized Thomas Brown, a 19-year-old black man from a jail cell and lynched him on the Jessamine County Courthouse lawn in Nicholasville, Kentucky. Mr. Brown had been arrested for an alleged assault on a white woman, but never had the chance to stand trial. The deep racial hostility that permeated the South during this time often served to focus suspicion on black communities after a crime was discovered or alleged, whether evidence supported that suspicion or not. Almost 25% of all lynchings involved allegations of inappropriate behavior between a black man and a white woman, which would be characterized as assault or sexual assault. The mere accusation of sexual impropriety regularly aroused violent mobs and ended in lynching. Allegations against black people were rarely subject to scrutiny. On the night of the lynching, a mob of 200 white men assembled at the jail and seized Mr. Brown from police. They then hung him from a tree in front of the county courthouse. Though news reports identified the young woman's brother as a leader of the mob, no one was ever prosecuted for Mr. Brown's murder, and authorities concluded that he met death by strangulation at the hands of parties unknown. That's a quote. During the era of racial terror, it was quite common for lynch mobs to include prominent community members and for the local press and police to help conceal lynchers' identities to ensure no one was punished or held accountable. Over 6,500 black men, women, and children were victims of racial terror lynching in the United States between 1865 and 1950. That's the recorded number. The number is much, much more higher than that over that period. 1865 was after the Civil War. Over 6,500 black men, women, and children. And that's it on today's America is Racist segment. We've laid it all out on the table, keeping it real and raw, just how we do it here on Woodson's Wisdom. It's all about understanding our past to navigate our future. We've got to know where we've been to figure out where we're going. Thanks for getting deep with us, for listening, and for being part of the change. And don't leave just yet. Stick around for this episode's book suggestion, dropping knowledge and inspiration for all ages. Plus, we've got more gems coming your way on Woodson's Wisdom from the Political Education for Freedom podcast, Black History Edition. Before we wrap up, I want to share some powerful children's books that bring this era to life for the younger generation. Check out Moses, When Harriet Tubman Led Her People to Freedom by Carol Boston Weatherford. As we reflect on this chapter of our history, let's honor the resilience and agency of our ancestors. Their fight for freedom was not just about breaking physical chains, but about affirming their inherent dignity and humanity. Remember the real heroes of this story. It's not just about Lincoln or a proclamation. It's about the countless unnamed warriors who dared to dream of freedom against all odds. Their roots run deep, and it's on us to keep their legacy alive. Thanks for joining me on Woodson's Wisdom. The roots run deep. Keep tuning in to the Political Education for Freedom podcast as we explore more chapters of our rich and resilient history. Remember, our roots run deep and our spirits run free. Peace and love to all.